All right. So, good morning. My name is Cindy Chang, and I am the programs professional at the Nevada Department of Education over computer science. Brand new position. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I am so glad that you're able to join me this morning on this webinar. I was trying to see how I could get information out to the folks throughout the state. And this was the easiest way that we could do that to reach as many folks as possible. So this session in particular is directed primarily to district leaders. However, if someone else with a different role has joined in, that's perfectly fine. Just, if you have any questions related to what your role is, please don't hesitate to ask. All right, so what I'm going to do is start off with a background history with computer science education in the state, how we got involved in the initiatives, and where we're heading. We're going to talk primarily about Senate Bill 200 that was put into law and the requirements that the department is now implementing that were in that bill. We're going to talk about the funding that came through that bill and the different computer science initiatives that are outlined within it. We'll talk a little bit about implementation in your schools in the districts. We're going to talk about suggested pathways for computer science, what that may or may not look like for you, some changes to the teacher endorsements and licensing that you need to be aware of, and then provide some resources for you and for the folks that are in your schools. And then we're going to talk about the technology standards that are going to be revised this year. All right, so a little bit of background history. Back in 2015, the K-12 computer science framework development began. This is exactly that, a framework. It was developed with input from folks throughout the nation at all levels, K-12, higher ed, researchers, industry had input as well. And the framework is exactly that. It's a set of guidelines on how computer science curriculum and standards should be informed, how to implement in districts. There's a whole lot of information in there. You can Google K-12 CS framework and it will come up. I believe it's csed.org possibly, but don't quote me. Just Google it and you'll be able to find that. In 2016, the National K-12 Computer Science Framework became published, so all could use it. But one of the things that I want to say about the framework is that Nevada has actually been a member of the development team from the very start. We had a group of folks, a task force, if you will, that was part of the reviewing team for the framework. So we've actually been, from the very beginning, players in this movement for computer science. Also in 2016, Nevada joined the National ESEP Alliance that's expanding computing education pathways. So with this alliance, we were able to join with, at that time, a handful of other states. It has since grown, who are also in the same boat that we are with computer science regulations and laws and policies being put into place. The questions about curriculum and how do we write standards and how do we implement this in our schools. So this alliance has been very supportive and very helpful in sharing best practices. We have monthly calls. We have annual convention meetings so that we can see where we need to be and hear from those researchers and make sure that we are, in alignment with truly how computer science should be implemented in our schools. So that alliance has been just outstanding and supportive. In May of last year was when this position at the Department of Education over computer science was actually created, the one that I currently have. and it's in the Office of Standards and Instructional Support. So it's with our core classes, our math, ELA, social studies, and science. So it is right there with the core. We, as you know, have always had computer science in our CTE, but now as lawmakers and leaders and educators have discovered that there is a great need for this education to be throughout our K-12 and higher ed actually as well. So that's why I am in this office specifically. In June of last year as well is when the Senate Bill 200 was actually signed into law by Governor Brian Sandoval. And in July, through that bill, one of the things that became required under that is that task force that I originally spoke of that was part of the development of that framework became an official computer science subcommittee under the Governor's Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology. So they are an advisory group now for the computer science initiatives moving forward. Also in July, the National Computer Science Teachers Association, nationally recognized group for computer science educators, announced their standards that were built off of the computer science framework. In August of last year, we were able to assemble a team of developers from all walks of positions, educators, administration, higher ed, K-12, industry, parents, student representatives throughout all of the districts in the state to develop our own Nevada K-12 computer science standards. And we were fortunate that the national standards had been published just that month prior, so we were able to use those as a foundation to build upon. In September of last year, a professional development began for our Computer Science Discoveries course, which is at the middle school level, and then the Computer Science Principles course, which is at the high school level. And then in December, our fiscal 18 funding for that was allocated in Senate Bill 200, that first allocation process began. So the districts are wrapping up their funding for that. That needs to be spent by June 30th, as most of you are probably aware. And January of this year, the K-12 computer science standards were approved by the state board. They are currently in finishing up the regulatory process, so those should be completed by June 8th at the state board, their final state board, before they go into the legislative session. Last month at the COPS workshop, that's the Commission on Professional Standards, approved changes to move forward with the computer science licensing endorsement changes that we'll talk about shortly. And then finally this year, or this month of this year, the FY19 funding allocation process has begun. So on the grants page, the department site is the application if you are not aware of that already and working on that. And I'll talk about the timeline on that shortly as well, but that's currently in process. It opened up March 30th and it closes the end of this month. And we'll talk about that in more detail. Okay, so that's our history. Here's our mission. So with computer science for our Nevada students, the mission here is to provide engaging and rigorous computer science education for all students. Typically, as you know, in the past, with computer science being in CTE, counselors usually direct students to take these courses if they're interested in it. You know, if you have a passion for, working with computers and devices, and you want to maybe program, for example, then okay, this is where you need to go. So what is happening is we have this skills gap between the students who have that skill, and then those that were not possibly directed in that coursework because they didn't know if they had an interest in it because they had never seen it before. And so as we graduate our students, they have this lack of skills that they need in this digital age, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So our mission is that computer science education, which is so vital right now for our students to have a base knowledge in, that it is not directed to just those who have an interest in it, that it is directed for all students. Typically, we know that the ones that take the course are primarily males and primarily white males. So we want to remove that gender bias, remove that race, those with disabilities. We want it open to all students, no matter what level or what school that they attend, whether they're in the rurals or they're deep in the heart of the city, because they really need to have this experience for the careers that are coming, and that are already there, to be honest with you. But we want our students to be not just users of this technology, but that they know how to create with it. And so the vision is that they're informed students, citizens, that they can engage in public discussion on computer science fundamental topics, that they develop as learners and users and creators of this computer science knowledge and artifacts. Also, that they have a better understanding of the role in computing in the world around them. Perhaps if they had a better knowledge of where that Snapchat is going and that it does not in fact disappear, but it is out there for eternity, they would not be as willing to send out that photograph that they were considering doing, just because they don't have that understanding, that knowledge of how the network works, how all of these are intertwined, and what is actually happening underneath the hood. It's this big mystery to them, and we need to remove that. And then finally, to learn, perform, and express themselves in other subjects and interests, because we know as they learn proper problem solving, critical thinking, computational thinking skills, that these will definitely overlap into all subject areas and interests that they have. All right, so I get this all the time. Okay, yeah, robots are going to replace every job. No, realistically, they're not going to replace every job. We don't even know what the jobs are going to look like once our students have, our kindergartners have graduated and moved on in 2030 or whatever it is. That job market is not even going to look probably close to what some of the jobs that we have now. But I can tell you that those jobs that are on some level routine, repetitive, and predictable, those are at the most risk to be replaced by technology. So, any occupation, post-secondary endeavor that our students partake in afterwards is going to require a new skill in computer science and technology, aside from just using the computers. They're going to have that next level of skill set. So a student in our schools that's learning computer science today, they're going to be better prepared for tomorrow and what has to come. So that's why Nevada is doing their part in making sure our students are set with those skill sets. All right, on this slide, I have 3 links. The first one is to the official Senate Bill 200 document in its entirety. It's on the legislative state site. The second link is on the Nevada Department of Education site, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And I have Senate Bill 200 kind of broken down by section. So you want to see what Section 3 specifically is talking about, you can go right there. And then the last link is on the STEMhub site, and I'm going to show you that as well. And that has Senate Bill 200 broken down by the effective date. So effective July 1st, 2018, what does the law say that we need to do? So that might be a better way to view it as well. So let's go out to these. I'll take you out to the department site first. So on here, if you go to Educators, Nevada Academic Content Standards, and then choose Computer Science, it'll take you to this page. So it's a little background overview of computer science. The job market. I mean, this was when I put this up 8 months ago. There were 2,732 open computing jobs. I'm sure that has increased since. So there's definitely a need for the skill set. But here you can find links to the computer technology standards that we currently have right now. Those are from 2010. So like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be revising those this year. And then here are the computer science standards and Senate Bill 200 link. I'll go to that. And you can see how I have these, the bill broken down by sections. And as we were using this, it became apparent that it's kind of hard to find what's due at this point, section by section. It's great to see, how it is broken down, but that's why I then created these pages here. I have a little bit more flexibility off of the department site to get things up here, resources and so forth, which is why the addition of another place to look. But this is the Nevada STEM Hub site. This is, again, under the Governor's Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology. So all of these links up here are part of the STEM Hub site, including this last one, advocacy. But this link here on the main menu for CS for Nevada and these pages underneath, this is where all the computer science initiatives, resources, items for educators, students, and so forth will reside. So let's go to the state advocacy page first. And this is where I have the bill broken down by the effective dates. So we'll take a minute, we'll look through each of these. So last summer, last July, these items became in effect according to the bill. So the first one, a student may count the following courses for a fourth-year math or third-year science graduation requirement. And those courses are an AP Computer Science course, a CTE Computer Science course, so one of them in the pathway, or a CS course from an approved community college or university. Now there's a caveat. They must have already passed their math and science courses that require an end of course completer exam in order to be able to count this for that fourth year math or third year science. So for example, a student gets to their senior year, counselors going over all of their credits, making sure that they are where they need to be. They've taken their 3 years of math. I guess this would be junior year. They're planning for senior year. They've taken their 3 years of math. They would like to take AP, computer science or something on the CTE pathway they've already been taking. They can count that for their fourth year math, okay? Because they would have already taken their algebra, geometry, and so forth prior, okay? This does not mean that they can't take AP Computer Science principles, for example, until they've had math and geometry and algebra 2 and so forth. It just means that by the time they graduate, they should have had all of these required math courses and science courses before they could count that, okay? So say they took it in their freshman year, they cannot count it for math or science until the end after they have satisfied these requirements, okay? The second one, computer science must count as a math or science credit towards the requirements for the Millennium Scholarship. Okay, so that's already in place. That will count. These two go hand in hand. The third one created the computer science subcommittee that I spoke about. So it took that task force and it made it an official subcommittee, put it under the Governor's STEM Advisory Council. I have a link there to the board members if you want to see who is currently on there. And then finally, effective July 1st of last year was the FY18 appropriations that were provided in the bill. So $700,000 was allocated to Clark, $100,000 to Washoe, and then $200,000 for the rurals and charters to share in the non-competitive grant process. I did have a question. Yes, this will be recorded. I do have it recorded, yes. Okay, so you could see the breakdown right here of where the funding went for this past year. Okay, so let's go on to the effective date coming up this July 1st, according to the bill. All right, so this July 1st coming up, before beginning 6th grade, all students are required to receive instruction in computer education and technology. Okay, so this computer ed technology, let me focus on this for just a minute. I'm going to jump back to the slides here, and I want to jump ahead to this slide so we can have an understanding of what do they mean by computer ed technology. All right, so currently right now in Nevada we have this computer education and technology subject area, right? And up to this point, the K-12 technology standards, which are our Nevada standards are based on the ISTE national standards that we're familiar with. Those have been the only standards that have comprised this computer education and technology subject area. Okay, with Senate Bill 200, and I'll show that in a minute. I think it's either the 3rd or 4th effective date. I'll show you. It added the computer science standards as well, K-12, to the computer education and technology. So now with both of these, they comprise the Nevada Computer Education and Technology subject area. Okay, so that's what that means when you see that in the bill. All right, let's go back. Okay, so, and here's the 5th one down. So effective July 1st of this year, this summer, adds computer science and computational thinking to the computer ed technology standards. So that's that other prong along with the technology. Okay, also, and obviously we're ahead of this effective date because we already have those standards in place and will be completely codified through regulation by June 8th at the state board. Just met that deadline. And also effective July 1st this summer, computer science and computer education and technology professional development. I can tell you that professional development in these areas has been ongoing for well over a year. So we do have professional development taking place. RPDP is running a couple of cohorts for discoveries, CS discoveries, and a couple of cohorts for APCS principles this coming summer and year. And CS fundamentals for your elementary folks has been ongoing for probably the past 4 years, at least in Clark and Washoe. So those are currently the approved curriculum by the state board. They're through code.org. It's free curriculum and free training and free support with those three. Again, CS Fundamentals is elementary, Discovery is middle school, and Principles is high school. If there's other curriculum for computer science, excuse me, such as Project Lead the Way or all the others that are popping up now, if you would like to consider those in your district, then you just need to go through the standard request for review with the department, and then we can review those, make sure they're in alignment with the standards, and see if they can be used as the primary resource or perhaps they're just supplemental. Okay, so you can start that process on your end at any time. I'm very happy to work with all of you folks on this. Currently, the CTE computer science curriculum is approved as of now until those standards are updated by the CTE office. I just spoke with Melissa Scott, and she said they were going to begin the rewrite of those CTE computer science standards in September. So that will be moving forward as well, and to get those in alignment with the national standards. If you look at the standards right now, and I'll show you where you can get those as well from the STEMhub site, you will see that for the K through 5 level, so our elementary, the standards are broken down by grade level. So kindergarten has their own standards, and first grade has their own, and so forth. When you get to middle school, they have the CT, they're broken down. 6 through 8 is by grade band, and 9 through 12 is by grade band. You also have an advanced 9 through 12 column in the condensed version, the table that I'll show you, that will help to inform your CTE pathway. So those are those advanced concepts that if your students are really into it, they want to continue, they've taken the computer science principles course, and they want to continue on the pathway, then those standards would comprise that. Before I go any further, are there any specific questions, concerns related to these effective dates coming up here in July? I mean, feel free to jump in at any time, post questions in the chat for anything that you have concerns about or questions for clarification. Okay, I'll keep going. So the following effective date is July 1st of 2020. And that one states that a state board approved computer science course, which we currently have, was listed above in last year's. So the AP Computer Science, any of the CTE pathway, and an approved university course, for example. Any of those courses can count towards college admissions as a third-year science or fourth-year math beyond Algebra 2. Okay, so that is an important caveat right there. And then the NSHE institution will have to recognize the CS credit by 2020 to meet admissions qualifications for the math or the science. However, if a student is going for the STEM seal at graduation, they cannot substitute computer science for a higher math class. They need to have that higher math class. They may still use it for that third year science, however, but they must complete, if they're going for STEM, they need to have that calculus. And to be honest with you, if they're going on with engineering or anything like that, that calculus will become very, very important for them. All right, and that's speaking from experience. Our effective date for July 1st, 2022, all public high schools, charter schools, and university schools for profoundly gifted students must offer a state board approved computer science course. This may be an online offering. Okay, so by 2022 is when you need to begin to offer that high school computer science course. It doesn't mean that you have to have it now so that your freshmen graduate with it by 2022. It just means by 2022 you need to have that offering in place. Okay, I wanted to make that distinction because there's a little confusion about that out there. So what I can say is I know a few schools who are offering the computer science principles to all of their freshmen, for example, and then they have counted this already, and that's that foundation. And this kind of goes, the second one here goes hand in hand with that first effective requirement, is that all of the schools mentioned above also must make efforts to increase enrollment of girls, students with disabilities, and underrepresented minorities in the field of computer science, as identified by the state board. So this goes back to my original slide about our mission, is that computer science is made available to all students, not just the elite AP student who we are now recommending to go into that, but for all, no matter what. And we need to make improved efforts in doing that. And I believe that's probably why many of the schools are considering offering that CS Principles course for their For All piece with their freshmen, because they know that they're targeting both of these at the same time when they do that. I will, on a little side note, with the AP Computer Science Principles course, typically we view those AP courses as teacher recommended. They have to have a certain score in their math classes or their English or whatever to be recommended into those AP courses. The AP Computer Science Principles course, this new course that was put out by the College Board, I believe it's in its second year of actual implementation in the classroom, and then they had a prior year of a beta test. It is not your typical AP course. This is your for all course. It is a foundational topics of computer science, the fundamental building blocks that our students need to have. What we were talking about, by the time they graduate, they should have these skills in place. So it's a different mind shift on that when we think AP. So please make sure your counselors have an understanding of that they do not need to have a recommended approval from a prior teacher or an 8th grade teacher if they're coming in as a freshman. It's not that kind of a class. The College Board will tell you, if you go out to their site as you read about it, that these are foundational concepts that they should know, that all students should know. Okay, so those are the parts of the bill that are by effective date. Any questions on that before I kind of move on to this half credit course topic down here? No clarification needed? Okay, fantastic. I'll keep moving. All right, so this half credit course for graduation that is usually taught in middle school in a lot of cases, 6th grade, is going through some changes. So right now, there are 2 changes that are in workshop right now for this this course. So it's formally called Use of Computers, right, if you look at the regulations. So we're changing some of those. The name change would now be to Computer Science and Applications. So it's more in alignment with the content that will be taught, and I'll explain that in a minute. And also with the naming of the licensing endorsement, that's also going to be updated, and I'll show you that in a minute as well. So 389-450 has proposed revisions, the name change that I mentioned right here, and that it would include these concepts: computer applications, so our productivity tools and our keyboarding and so forth would still be a component of this, although it will not be the complete component. Digital citizenship has always been a part of this. I think typically some of our districts call it computer literacy. That will still remain as part of the concepts taught. And then we have an addition of the computer science and computational thinking. And what that covers is algorithms and programming, computing systems, data and analysis, impacts of computing, and networks and the internet. If you look at the standards themselves, these are the main categories that the standards are broken down into. So as you can see, the algorithms and programming is only 1/5 of the standards that we have outlined here as far as categories are concerned. But it's understanding how the computing systems all work together, the impact that computing has on our students. When I came into teaching 11, 12 years ago, this was not the issue that it is even today. And I have a computer science background, so things have changed so drastically, so quickly for these students. So understanding the impacts computing has had on society and in their own lives is crucial. And then again, the networks and the internet. How does this all work? I can guarantee if they really knew how this worked, a lot of that, like I said, that Snapchatting and the things that they're sending across would be squashed. So these are the concepts that will comprise this. The other item of change is 389-664, and that says that we'll change, again, the name from Use of Computers to Computer Science and Applications, And then item 2 would be revised to say if a pupil satisfactorily completes a course of study in computer science and applications during 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, so that it can still remain in middle school as it is in some districts, the pupil is not required to take the course of study in computer science and applications in high school and must earn only a minimum of 14.5 units of credit for required courses pursuant to subsection 1. Okay, so what this is saying is if you had your students have taken this course in middle school, they're not to take it again, repeat it in high school. They've already satisfied that credit. They should not be taking it again. I know this does happen a lot because I understand, with curriculum and trying to get everything in alignment, having that half credit back up to a half credit of health is obviously ideal for building out the curriculum for some schools. But it's not fair to the students who have already qualified for that credit, nor for the teachers that are now teaching the same material to students who are bored. So please be mindful of that. I want to mention that this obviously the unit of credit for graduation will be changing with other regulations as that goes through, as those changes are to take place. So LCB will make sure that all of the regulations will be in alignment, so this will change, of course. And so additionally, the course of study in computer science and applications must be for at least one semester or trimester or the equivalent and must not be taught as part of another course of study. Okay, the course in computer science and applications must include 50% of computer science and computational thinking instruction. Okay, so it will be 50-50 type of instruction for this. So you've got your CS and your CT, 50%, your computer applications, productivity tools, 50%. Digital citizenship actually is spread between both of them, so that gets hit on as well. We have a question, I'll get to that in just a second. One thing that I do want to say too is with this course, this half credit graduation course, soon to be named Computer Science and Applications, we have, like I mentioned before, we have our K-12 computer science standards and we have our K-12 technology standards. Obviously, we cannot use both of set of standards into 9 weeks each. So there will be a subset of those standards that will be comprised and put together that will be used to inform your districts on creating the courses and curriculum that would satisfy this half credit course. So hopefully that makes sense. You will not be using all standards from both of those. You will have a subset to work with to then build your courses on, okay, or modify the course that you currently have. Okay, we'll talk about that in just a second. With the subset of standards that are coming out, the subcommittee that's under the governor's STEM Advisory Council will be meeting this next week and talking about specifically that issue, that topic of what standards should be included in this course. Okay, so that will be helpful for you folks to inform that. All right, so I have a question in here. It's exciting to know that as a state will be offering additional course offerings in computer science for our students. However, previously stated that there are several thousand CS openings in the state. These jobs typically pay significantly more than a teacher's salary. Okay, what is being done to attract more individuals to current CS openings that exist in schools and those additional openings that will be created as a result of the implementation of SB 200? Bob, what a fantastic question. Thank you so much for asking that. Because part of my role is not only getting all of these policies and regulations that the law is mandating that we put into place, but I'm also a realist. I was a computer science teacher for 11 years. I have a computer science background. I actually came into industry to teach, which doesn't happen all the time because, as you stated well, that there are higher paying jobs out there. So building this army of computer science teachers to teach this course and to satisfy this requirement for you, for all of you, has been in the forefront of my mind. So in addition to the professional development that is happening right now with the discoveries and the computer science principles, I want to say right now that there's endorsement changes that I told you that are coming that I'm going to address right now to help alleviate some of those barriers for teachers to teach this course. Realistically, we are not going to be able to pull folks from industry who are making those kind of wages to do this, to make a career change. But working with one of our resources that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, our CSTA brand new chapter for our state, bringing in mentors. We have a lot is happening on our virtual academy side with courses that are being created online. Through that, that can be used alongside of an inexperienced teacher in computer science or as a standalone course offering online for those areas that cannot find a teacher to be in that classroom with those students. Ideally, having a teacher in front of the students with computer science is the most effective way to get these concepts taught. So if we can at least support them with an online suite offering, then that would be ideal. And then having a computer science specific teacher, that was their background and all of this, is not necessarily realistic. So like for example with the computer science principles, I'll just talk about this right now. So for your computer science principles and your discoveries, that training can suffice for a teacher who is going to teach specifically only those courses. So you've got your discoveries course for middle school and your principles course for high school. If that's the only course they're going to teach in computer science, then those trainings will suffice. I'm working very closely with RPDP. I can tell you that, and you know what? Let's jump to the endorsements here real quick, so that maybe that will tie in a little bit better. So we'll just stay on here. Back up at the top at the menu, I'm going to go down to educators because this is where I have the endorsement information. All right. So here again, I've got on the educator page, there's professional development opportunities that I'm building out as I hear about them for these folks. Let's go to the licensing requirements. All right, so the changes in licensing are such that currently on the books we have three. One is being repealed, the 391-192. So that will leave us with two. So we have our 202 and our 196. The 202 will be an endorsement to teach computer science and applications. Notice that this is the same title that course is. So there's some connection there. So I know that when I'm getting this endorsement that I can teach that half credit course, for example. And what that endorsement is going to say is that I need 9 semester hours total. I need a course in methods for teaching computer science, a course in the study on computer science concepts, and then a course on methods to teach computer applications, which will include these things that are currently being taught in that half credit course. The reason for these changes are a couple of things. Before the 202 said that they had to take a course in computer applications. So they would take a new teacher would go and take a course in, say, spreadsheets or Word or how to make PowerPoints and so forth. So they were learning, much like our students, how to use the technologies, how to use the software, but not necessarily how to create units and content for their classes, short of, you know, perhaps here's a packet, let's go through on how to use Word or how to use Excel. Instead of saying, let's use Word to type a paper that you're doing in your history class. Okay, these are the functions of Word. The content you're going to use is that paper you're writing in your history class. So now, by taking this course in methods to teach computer applications, it will open those educators' minds in not only how to teach the kids how to use it, but how to effectively come up with ideas that they can tie this technology back into the other subject areas that they're already using. Okay, so that's why that's a little bit different. This study on computer science concepts. Currently, if you have a teacher who is taking the Discoveries training with RPDP or the Principles training, that would suffice for this concepts credit. So RPDP has an agreement with UNLV that they will get their teachers credit for this course. Okay, and actually they have methods for teaching computer science, they have the concepts, and they also have the applications that they are working on. So I spoke with them a few days ago. The methods for teaching computer science and the computer science concepts, I believe, will be offered in the fall. And they also have a Java course that is currently being taught as well. And these are open to the entire state because I believe they are online. So the Java course would fall in down here. The next endorsement is to teach advanced computer science. This is primarily for your CTE pathway. Okay, so you have folks that perhaps you had an English teacher, for example, that went through the training with RPDP to teach the CS Principles course. And they discovered that they really do like this, and maybe you want to offer the next course in the pathway at your school, being Computer Science 2. They would need to then go on and get their advanced computer science in order to be better prepared. Okay. So, I mean, and again, yeah, English teachers, math teachers, as long as they've had that training, they don't even have to get it for the college credit, although it is at a reduced price. So if they want to get it and just have it, that would probably be a good idea. But just when they finish that course, which constitutes a 5-day, week-long training with RPDP and then 4 follow-up quarterly meetings, once they complete that, they'll get a certificate at the end. They can upload it in the department's new online licensing system that they have, and then you'll be able to see, or your site-based representatives will be able to see that that teacher is qualified, they went through the training, so they can teach that particular course. But again, if they want to go on in the pathway, then they would need to get the 12 semester hours. Notice, though, that the methods for teaching computer science and the study on computer science concepts is also here, so it's a building block. Again, the goal is to break down the barriers to getting the necessary endorsements to teach these courses with our current teachers. And so, therefore, that's why we have the building blocks. So if they've already been teaching the half credit course and they have this training, then they can just build upon it by adding 2 more courses in computer programming languages. Now, speaking of those folks that perhaps are thinking about education coming from industry, they have a heavy background in computer science, or, I mean, there are those teachers out there that just love it so much they've been dabbling in on their own and have quite a deep base of knowledge. In lieu of these 12 semester hours, they may also take the practice exam in computer science and pass that at a level of competency. I did go to Princeton and was part of the review team for this exam, and I do believe if they can pass that, then they have a good enough solid knowledge to be successful in the classroom with our students. So Bob, I hope that kind of helped with the thoughts behind building with what we currently have as our teacher pool, and as well as opening it to others in other areas. I'll talk a minute too about post-secondary and what's happening there and the things I've done as well. But let me see if I can get to some of these questions. How long will the current teachers have to receive the appropriate endorsement? Okay, great question also. If you have teachers who are currently teaching that half-credit course or currently teaching the CTE pathway, they do not need to get re-endorsed, re-licensed, add anything else to it. They're already in, they're good. If they need professional development, then that's definitely encouraged, especially with the half-credit course changing with the 50% of the CS and CT. Definitely professional development is key for those teachers. Absolutely. But yeah, they're quote unquote grandfathered in if they're already teaching them. All right, I did have another one. Just wanted to double check. The middle school computer literacy course is now going to be called Computer Science and Applications. That is correct. And the 50% inclusion of computer science is mandatory for the 18-19 school year. Yes, it becomes effective July 1st of this year, so this summer. Correct. Thank you for asking for that clarification. All right. Okay, so let's talk for a second here. Let's see if I've got all this. So these regulations are currently in the process. They have not been placed into statute, so they're for reference purposes only at this time. Okay, so I just want to say that. But I think it's helpful to know, especially at your level, where the process is heading, because then you can make informed decisions and be ahead of that ball. So that's why I put these up here. So a guidance document I'm going to work on shortly that we'll put together, for example, for your new teachers coming in. You know, if you have this endorsement, then you're qualified to teach this and this, and so forth. So that'll be coming soon. Okay. I also have a link here to the computer science standards as well as being on the department site. So there's two versions. There's a full version, and then there's a condensed version. Condensed version is in a table, so you can see the progression of concepts across grade levels. The full version is you have those 5 big idea areas, the algorithms and programming, you know, the impacts on computing and so forth. It has for every grade level in elementary, so K1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just talk kindergarten. You'll have a page for each of those main concepts and the standards that are associated with it. And across all of the standards, there are cross connections at the bottom. So what that means is all those computer science standards that are listed there also have a connection with the other Nevada academic content standards, so math, ELA, science, and social studies. So it's better to help inform the teachers if you're hitting this standard in computer science, you are also touching on this standard in math. So they'll be able better to integrate them, especially at that K-5 level when they see the students and they cover all the subject areas. Then they can integrate those a little bit better with the other subject areas that they teach. Because truly, to be honest with you, with computer science, it should be integrated and these concepts should be built upon each other as our students grow and as they go through our K-12 system. What we're seeing right now, which I believe is adding to the skills gap that we have, is that you have students who perhaps, if they choose as an elective to take computer science in high school, that is the first time that they are ever seeing computer science in its entirety in conceptually in those courses. And it is very difficult, even for some of our students that take the pathway, to internalize those concepts. However, if we're starting at kindergarten explaining that a loop is when we're repeating in Old MacDonald Has a Farm, we repeat that chorus over and over, that's a loop. And that chorus itself has instructions in there, an algorithm, a list of instructions to complete a task that we already have used before. We're going to take that out, we're going to call it chorus, and then while we're going along in our song, we're going to call that chorus, that function, over again, play it and then continue on in our list of instructions or our song. If they start to use that terminology over time from a very young age and build upon that, we will have met our goals, guaranteed, by the time they graduate. All right, let's jump back into here. I probably talked over everything that I had here, but that's okay. So again, the concepts for the standards, the 5 major concepts are here. There are sub-concepts that are included, such as troubleshooting, safety, law and ethics, cybersecurity, getting our youngsters to understand how to keep their passwords safe, how to create good passwords, those sorts of things, vital in today's society. What computer science is and what it isn't, I think I've kind of hit on this already, but getting your folks to understand that computer science is understanding why and how computers work, creating programs rather than just using them, right? And here are some examples. So like modeling and simulating disease spread, formulating decisions computationally on how we can help head that off before that becomes an epidemic. Interactive data visualizations. Big data is huge right now. Data runs everything. Understanding that data and how to interactively work with it and then visualize it so decisions can be made is huge. That's all part of computer science. What computer science is not is using computers to perform everyday tasks. So keyboarding, using the internet, creating a PowerPoint, editing movies and photos, or using apps that are created by other folks. So this is typically where we have done a good job at, and now we're just adding this other component to it. All right, and I talked about this. We've got the 2 arms of the umbrella, and I already went through those changes as well. This is what 450 looks like, making those changes to the statute. Here's just a graph of how the funds for FY18 were allocated by district and charter. And this is important, especially for you folks right now. If you don't know, which I hope you do, your FY19 application is already up on the department site on this link, Grants Home. It opened up March 30th, much earlier than FY18 did. And it closes at the end of this month, April 30th. Awards will be sent out by May 31st to the districts. They have June 1st, you can start submitting your funding requests for approval prior to purchase. And then by July 1st, be ready to go and start spending those approved expenditures at that time. And then the end of the FY19 allocation period is June 30th, 2019. So I wanted to get this out quicker this year so you folks would have a chance to really think about, what is your vision for expanding computer science in your districts? What does that look like? What do you want to see happen now that you know, have a greater understanding of the importance of this? How do you see that all working together? I will tell you with the grant that, and many of you know with working through with me this year, this is not your typical tech ed grant where you're asking for equipment and then perhaps there's some PD for your schools or your teachers on how to use that equipment and that software. This is not what that is. As you could see in the bill, there's a heavy emphasis on professional development for your teachers. So if you're implementing computer science in your district, I understand that equipment is always an issue. So if you're going to ask for equipment, then you must have a solid plan for professional development for your teachers in computer science education. How do they teach computer science in their classes? What does that look like? How can I support them on that? And then hand in hand, those two will be approved. But if it's just the equipment, I'll probably come back and say, so what you're saying is that all of your elementary schools, all of those teachers are confidently ready to begin the year teaching computer science with their students. And chances are that's not the case. And so just make sure that those are combined together. Being a teacher, I understand the importance of professional development. You work with your teachers all the time. You do professional development for them. So I know I'm preaching to the choir. So, just please keep that in the forefront when those budgets come out and the applications. It's a very short application. It's a one-pager. I'm trying to keep it not as crazy as some of those are. I have another question here. If anyone is looking, it's not a question, it's a help. Yay. If anyone is looking for cybersecurity help or examples, our department at Washoe County School District is happy to help if we can. Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate that. Yeah, if you're going into, if you have students that are looking at that CTE pathway, then definitely with cybersecurity and even some of those components at the younger age, they can be a wonderful resource for you. Thank you so much, Alan. I appreciate that. All right, let's move along here. So again, on the STEM Hub Educator site, I showed you the things that are there, licensing and PD. Suggested K-12 computer science pathway. And again, this is just a suggestion. Some folks have asked, well, what does it look like? So again, kindergarten through fifth, they have their own set of standards. Your half credit perhaps could be in sixth grade, does not have to be, but perhaps it is. Then maybe you have your computer science discoveries course that could be taught seventh or eighth grade. Again, ninth grade, your computer science principles course possibly could be taught. And then if our students are so inclined to continue on in the CTE pathway, they have time to sufficiently complete that. And again, some of the schools that are offering the computer science principles at that freshman level or anywhere in there has satisfied they've already satisfied section 2 of the bill, saying that all high schools must offer. And again, offer also reaching out to other underrepresented demographics. So hitting two birds with one stone there. One thing that I did want to mention about the discoveries. So I have this question is always asked to me. So if I have a school who is teaching discoveries at, say, 7th grade, does that qualify for the half credit computer science, half credit graduation requirement? And the answer is no, as discoveries is written. And I'll explain why, and you probably already have this answer now, since the changes to that half credit being the half 50% or half of the computer science computational thinking and then the half of the productivities and tools, so forth, discoveries does not have that productivity component in it, so it would not satisfy that. What I have seen some folks are considering doing is discoveries is in 6 units, I believe, and so they can be taken out and used to help build that 50% CS and CT portion of it. Just be careful, because if that becomes a standard where the discoveries unit becomes part of that half credit course, and then you have a school that decides to run as an elective in, say, 8th grade, the full computer science course, then there's going to be overlap. So really be mindful as you're building out your plan that you might not want to do that if that's going to be a possibility that they're going to offer that. Okay, so I just want to throw that out there. All right. Any questions about any of that? I'm gonna. I know we are a little bit over time, so I'm going to go through these resources with you very quickly so you can get on your day. Yes, I understand you have to get to another meeting. I will definitely give you a link to this playback. It will be all of this, including the the slide deck will be on the STEMhub site so that you can catch up on anything that you've missed. But I really appreciate your time joining with us. All right, so really quickly, the resources that you have. We have, like I mentioned before, a new chapter of Computer Science Teachers Association. So this is a national association where our national standards came from. These are the members of the executive board, along with their links to their emails. This is free to all folks. So everyone at the district could join who's interested in the computer science. Our teachers, administrators, and so forth. They provide mentoring for your teachers. They have regular meetings. There's resources and so forth. The STEM Hub site I also spoke about. There's also email sign up that you can do at the top of that. And I encourage you to do that so that you can be on top of all the different initiatives as these change very quickly. The computer science pages out on the department site, there's also frequently asked questions there, so please take a look at that. The Instructional Materials Resource Center currently has math, science, ELA, all of the other core. We will be building out computer science as well as those materials come through. ISTE has some resources for your folks on computational thinking. This is a fantastic book on computational thinking and coding for every student, for all grade levels for your teachers. It's wonderful. And this is one of our biggest professional development opportunities coming up. We have I wrote a grant so that we could have our first ever computer science summit so that we could provide resources, bring clarity to our initiatives and so forth. So this will be coming up on June 18th. Dr. Canavero will be speaking from the department, our state superintendent on Nevada and their computer science initiatives. And we have a national speaker who will be talking about what's happening in the nation regarding computer science and where Nevada fits in. We're actually right in there. We're one of the model states for computer science rollout. So please, let's get your teams together. This is up to the district where we are asking that you send folks from the towers to the trenches. Okay, so you folks at the district lead, your superintendents and so forth that have that 30,000 foot view, right? You're looking at the bigger picture, as well as your admin, your elementary, middle, high school representatives, your counselors who are putting these students in these courses, your teachers, elementary, middle, and high school representatives that can go back and take it to their level peers, all the information that they'll receive. So please put those teams together, register quickly. I've extended it to May 11th, so I'll put another one in there. But we need to have that registration put in place very, very quickly. If you are a district who did not receive funding, FY18 funding for computer science from the bill, there are travel vouchers for you, so please reach out to us, okay? And then finally, we have the computer and technology standards that are currently on the books. They're from 2015, or 2010, excuse me. They are 8 years old, so it's dinosaur years as far as computer science and technology. So we are going to be rewriting those this fall. If you have folks who are interested, or you yourself, please, if you're interested in being part of that process, please let me know so I can make sure that you have a personal invitation for that. And that, again, is rewriting these right here. All right. Are there any questions before I set you loose on these issues that I've talked about? Anything that we can discuss? I'll put my information up there as well while we're talking. I know it's a lot of information to process. You're probably like, I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to think. But again, if later on you have a question that pops into your mind, please send me an email, pick up the phone, give me a call, and we can work through those issues. I just most importantly want you to know that I am here to support you in any way that I can. If you'd like me to come talk to your teachers, I don't have any travel funds in my office, but if you do at your district, I'm more than happy to travel to you, or we can conduct webinars such as this. Whatever you need, I am here as a resource to you. Again, making sure that you are supported and that your teachers are supported is my primary concern. So please do reach out to me and let me know in any way that I can help. And once again, finally, these slide decks and recordings will be on the STEM Hub website. I'm not exactly sure which page. I need to get with the webmaster and work through that, but they will be made available for you so you can review all of this information. Okay, I hope this was very helpful for you. I thank you so much for your time. I know you are busy folks, and I'm going to let you move on to the rest of your day. Thank you again so much. Please share with your colleagues. Okay.